Hey you guys, welcome to the 5th episode of Dank Dishes by Dee. Today I'm kind of channeling my Cajun roots and I'm making Trout Almondine, which is kind of a version of a pan-fried fish with almonds and butter on top. And then I'm going to do an oven roasted okra and I'm going to finish it off with my mom's strawberry margarita pie. So let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get started on the okra because we're going to throw it in the oven and I want to give it time to cook. So if you don't know what okra is, it's kind of a vegetable that's really common in the South. People fry it normally, but I'm going to oven roast it. And you can totally throw it in there whole, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to half the okra and then put them face down on here. Now, the really hot pan kind of caramelizes the okra on the bottom. So I'm going to cut all of these up and then I'm going to toss them with some olive oil and Greek seasoning and then throw them in the oven. Okay, so I've got all the okra cut up and I've kind of put a couple tablespoons of olive oil on each of these. Just going to give it one final little splash of olive oil, and I have an all-purpose Greek seasoning right here. It just kind of got salt, pepper, oregano, garlic, and onion powder in it. You can just use salt and pepper if that's what you prefer, but I think that the Greek seasoning gives it kind of a good blend of like all flavors. That's a ton of Greek seasoning though. So just kind of throw it around with the okra with your hands in the olive oil and make sure all of the pieces are coated. Okay, so I've got the okra all seasoned. I'm just gonna throw them in the oven. And if you want to make sure these are super evenly cooked, sometimes the top of the oven ones can cook faster than the bottom ones. So probably about halfway through, maybe 10 minutes, you can switch them up and that'll ensure even cooking. So I'm gonna let these go at 350 for like 20 minutes. Okay, so for dessert, I'm making a strawberry margarita pie, which is my mom's recipe. It's super good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a pretzel crust. And I've got a bag of glutino pretzels here. They're gluten-free pretzels. You can use regular pretzel sticks if you want, but honestly, I prefer these. They're super crunchy and delish. So I'm gonna put these, the entire bag, there we go, into a food processor. If you don't have one of these at home, because I know it's not like a super common kitchen appliance, you can just put all of these pretzels in a big gallon Ziploc and get like a wine bottle or a mallet and like kind of gently bang it until you get kind of crumbs, but like you want some thicker pieces too, so the crust has like a good texture. So I'm just gonna lock this in. I'm gonna turn it on low until it's got kind of like a crumb-like, kind of like thicker crumb-like consistency. Okay, so I've kind of got them the consistency you want, and there are some really fine crumb pieces, but then you can see there are some pieces where you can still tell it's a pretzel, which is exactly what you want. So I'm gonna lock this back in place, and I have a stick of butter that I've melted here. I'm gonna put about 3/4 of this in here, and you can just throw it in with the pretzels. And when you blend it, it'll kind of come together almost like a dough, and be a little more crumb-like. So I'm gonna, we have a crumb blocking our way. So I'm gonna lock this back in place and just hold it. And you can kind of see it come together. And that's all there is to it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dump this into our pan, just like so. And I'm gonna press it down with my hands. So when you press it, if you've added enough butter with the pretzels, it should kind of come together and form a good crust. So if it's not coming together, it's still like really crummy, you can just add a little bit more butter to help it thicken. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the crust a little bit and I'm just gonna sprinkle just a little bit of sugar kind of over the crust. Just probably like 2 tablespoons because the pretzels are super salty and so is the butter. So giving it that little extra sugar will help balance out the salt. So just re-pat it down just with a little bit of sugar in there and that's all you have to do. Now I'm gonna get started on the filling part, which is super, super easy. So I've got half of a thing of Cool Whip here. So you just need half of the thing. And then I have 1 jar of condensed milk. You're gonna dump all of that in also. Super healthy pie. And then the great thing about this pie also is that it's super versatile. So I have a bag of frozen strawberries here, but if you're more of like a mango person or blackberry, you can just buy a bag of those frozen and make it just like that. So it's super like up to you, whatever you want. So I'm gonna open these. and you just dump these in with it. But again, if you don't have a food processor at home, you can make this in a blender really easily. Just make sure your strawberries are defrosted and just do it in smaller batches, and the blender will do the trick just fine. So then I have a thing of key lime juice here, and you can get this in like the baking section of your grocery store. It's super great if you don't want to buy limes because this is a little bit sweeter. So I'm just gonna add probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons in here. And this is a super versatile thing to buy at the grocery store. It's great for margaritas. If you're looking for like a fresh lime juice, it's really good. So I like to keep this in the pantry. So I'm gonna throw the lid on here, and I'm gonna blend this on high until it's really creamy, and you'll be able to tell when the strawberries are blended up. Okay, so our strawberry mixture is totally combined. What you wanna do is you can pull this out. This is kind of the blade. You wanna make sure you get all that in there. So you can kind of scrape this with your spatula. And the great thing about this is it only has to freeze for a couple of hours because you already used totally frozen ingredients like the Cool Whip and the frozen strawberries. So it's already at a really cool temperature, so it's just gonna kind of take a few hours to harden. So get all of this in there. Once you get all of it in there, you just kind of want to spread it evenly over the crust. So just get your spatula, kind of spread it around. And then you want to put this in the freezer for about 3 hours, cover it, and it's ready to go. Okay, so now for the main part of the dish, we're gonna make the trout almondine part. So I've got 6 fillets of trout here that my dad caught. So it's super fresh, but if you're buying this at the grocery store and they don't have trout, it's kind of uncommon here. Just buy like a white flaky fish like tilapia or something. Just try to make sure that it's wild caught, not farm raised, because they taste a lot better and it's a lot better for you too. So I'm gonna lay out all these fish fillets on a cutting board right here. And you want to salt and pepper each side really well. So I'm going to grab some salt and just make sure you get each side really well. And then grab your pepper. So I have 2 pans here because we have 6 fish fillets. You don't really want to overcrowd the pan when you cook them. So I'm going to cook them in 2 separate pans so they're all hot at the same time. And this is a Cajun dish, so obviously it has a lot of butter in it. So I'm going to start with about 3 tablespoons of butter for the smaller pan, and probably about 3 to 4 for the bigger pan, just because I'll cook more in that pan. And I'm going to get these preheated over medium heat. And once the butter is melted and has kind of a golden brown color, add your fish, and then cook for about 3 minutes each side. So while our butter is going, I have some rice flour here. And I'm just going to lightly coat the fish in the rice flour. So if you don't have rice flour at home, all-purpose flour is great to use too. I just like the rice flour because 1, I'm gluten-free, and 2, it's kind of like a lighter coating than all-purpose flour. Just shake it off. So you just want it like really, really a light coating on there. You don't want a lot. Just give it kind of a nice crust. Okay, so I'm just going to add probably like half a tablespoon of olive oil to each thing of butter. And what this does is it helps prevent the butter from burning, because if it's on the heat for like 7 minutes, there's a high chance that it'll burn. So just a little bit of olive oil will keep the butter from burning, but allow it to still be that nice golden brown. So our big pan is getting there. You see that butter's kind of bubbling. In this big pan, I think we can probably fit about 4 fillets. So I'm going to throw them in there. And let them get all. And then I'm going to throw the other 2 in this pan. And I'm going to cook them for about 3 minutes per side. And then I'm going to flip them. Okay, so it's been about 3 minutes per side. And I'm going to flip these. And you can see it's just a nice golden brown. It's not going to be like a fried fish with the flour. It just helps get a nice crust on there and helps give it that nice golden brown color. So I'm just going to flip all of these and cook them for another 3 minutes on the other side, and then I'm going to finish this up. Okay, so I'm going to start taking these out of the pan and putting them on this big platter here. Turn this one off, and you can combine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the extra butter from the other pan into one. Turn this back on. I'm going to add another half a stick of butter, maybe a little extra, into this pan. And I'm gonna turn this on low and just let this brown with the others really slow. Okay, so I got probably, it's just a bag of sliced almonds, probably about 1.5 cups in here. And I'm gonna add these to the butter while it browns so they can brown along with the butter. It's gonna be great. So it's sort of just like a buttery almond sauce. I'm gonna add a little bit of parsley and lemon to freshen it up a little bit. So let these brown for probably about 4 minutes. Okay, so while our almonds and butter are browning, I'm gonna chop up a little bit of parsley for this. And I just cut the stem off because that's not really the part that you want in there. But I've got a whole bunch of this and I'm honestly just gonna add it all to this. It's gonna give it a nice fresh flavor. And it helps to chop it if you bunch it a little bit. So just kind of bunch it up again, go through it. When you're chopping herbs like this, you wanna make sure your knife is like super sharp as well. Because if it's not sharp, you're just gonna mostly bruise the herbs and not really get through them a little bit. And I have some Worcestershire sauce here. I'm gonna add a bit of Worcestershire sauce. And that's gonna kind of help cut the richness of the butter. It's gonna give it a nice acidity. So will the lemon help balance all the flavors in here. At this point, we can add just a little pinch of salt. And the lemon. So I'm gonna zest a little bit of lemon too. When you buy a lemon and you just juice it, you're kind of wasting a big part of the lemon. So zesting it really helps enhance the lemon flavor, and it's free when you buy the lemon, so you may as well. And I'm just using a microplane grater here. If you don't have that, the really thin side of a cheese grater will work too. So just zest that. And I'm gonna cut this in half. And I'm just gonna add the juice. Of 1 lemon. If you like it really lemony, you can add the juice of 2 lemons. Just kind of your preference. Okay, so I'm gonna set the seeds right there. Give this a good little stir. You can see that the almonds are really brown, so at this point I'm gonna add in the parsley. And give it a good mix. Okay, so I'm giving this one last stir. The almonds are really brown, as you can see. The parsley is nice and mixed in there. And I'm just gonna top all of the fish with this almond mixture. Okay, so I'm gonna take my okra out of the oven. And I have laid down like a dish towel here because I don't want it to burn the counter. And you can see it's lost a lot of its size. But it's nice and brown and crispy, and you can see the herbs on there. So I've got my Trout Almondine here, the okra here, and the final step is the pie. So I already cooked the pie, or I guess you wouldn't say cooked. I put together a pie earlier, and I froze it. So it's been about 3 hours, and you can see the Cool Whip and the strawberries really hardened on here, but it's still got like a really good consistency. So we're gonna eat dinner, and join us next week for the Dank Dishes by Dee episode, and be sure to check out the Plainsman.